Hi there, this is Architect David. Welcome to Arkida, where you can learn anything and everything about construction. For this video, we will be discussing about how to do your ceiling framing using steel. Using steel framing for your ceiling is almost similar as that of the wood, but for steel, you can now come up with a more complex variation of your ceiling. When I say more complex, it means you can now come up with rounded ceilings using steel, which is much more easier to do than that of wood. The way to do a curvilinear or a curvature ceiling is to get a piece of steel framing and start snipping it off into certain uniform distances. Again, if you want the curvature to be more rounded, you have to have your distances of the snips much closer to each other. Now this is a 3D representation of how to install your ceiling framing to the slab above or the joist. So down below, as you can see in the picture, is your grid pattern for the ceiling. Then you will just have to include an angle section to hold it up to the slab above or to the joist. Now, as you can see, based on that rounded rectangular thing, these are now the angle clits. Again, this is usually made of steel with several holes in it for you to be able to adjust the length or the depth of your ceiling drop. Now, this picture here just shows one of the brochures given by certain steel suppliers telling you what are the materials that they can supply. So if you look at the left side portion, you can see the various sizes of ceiling framing. That would also include any type of screw varieties, blind rivets, or locking key. Also, if you'll notice here on the right side portion, it includes certain hangers, which like for example is a threaded bolt, a rod joiner, steel angle, and so on and so forth. So, meaning to say when you start designing your steel framing, you will just have to refer to the sizes that you would like to procure. Now, in the event you are going to install your ceiling framing to a steel joist above, it is advised that you use self-tapping screws, which looks like this, or if the ceiling is going to be heavier, meaning to say you will install heavier finishes, then it is recommended that you use bolt and nuts. Now, another variation of a ceiling finish is what is called as suspended ceiling. If you look at the picture, as you can see, it is held by a GI wire. But again, there are several variations of how to install your suspended ceiling using not only GI wire but rods. Again, this is another 3D variation of how to do your ceiling framing, showing your grids. But this time, instead of showing GI wires, you will see that they are now rods, meaning to say that the ceiling finish to be installed here would be quite heavy. Now, these are several variations of ceiling finish using the suspended ceiling finish or category. Meaning to say, if you are going to use GI wire for your suspended ceiling, the finish that is to be installed there should be light materials only. Please do not have that mistake of installing floor tiles or tiles into your ceiling. So this is a suspended ceiling. So let us now discuss the various parts of it. The first part here is the main runner. It is one whole piece, meaning to say it is going to, from one end to the other end of the structure. Let's just say you have a structure that is 3 meters. Obviously, you can buy a main runner that is 3 meters long. But if it is beyond that, then you will have to install a joiner to join two main runners. Next, you will have what is called as a cross T. These are smaller pieces placed uh, against the run of your main runner. Then on the left side portion, you will see there is a suspension clip. That is where you start clipping your runners, either the main or your cross T's, to the slab above. Obviously, you will have, as it is written here, it's called a galvanized steel rod. But you can also order or use an ordinary steel rod for this. Then for the last portion, you would need a wall angle because this is where you will now start anchoring your main runner or cross T's to the wall itself. As you can see, this is a 3D of the main runner and the cross T's. Meaning to say the main runner again is one whole piece while the cross T is several smaller pieces. When ordering your main runner and cross T's, you will notice that it is full of holes because this is where you start adjusting the distances of your cross T's. Now for the anchoring, let's start with a plain GI wire. As you can see on the picture here, you have your main or cross T's down below. You just tie up your GI wire. Then on the anchoring above, you tie your GI wire also. This is quite cumbersome because if you are doing a ceiling framing for large expanse or big rooms, this will not work because it is quite hard to get the level of your ceiling. Another variation for that is this. As you can see, that small square type on that picture, that is what is called as the adjuster. Meaning to say you will just turn it left or right to lower or raise your ceiling height or depth. So when you using this variation, you have two people working on it. One is to look at the level of the ceiling while the other one is doing the adjusting. If we are going to use steel rods, if you look at the picture on the left, that is your plain steel rod wherein it is anchored to your runner down below. The picture in the middle is an adjuster, meaning to say you will have to use a wrench to start turning that nut to raise or lower your runner, either the main or the cross T's. The picture on the utmost right of this group of pictures is also a suspension clip but for lighter version of a ceiling frame. This one is another variation of how to do your adjusters. And this one, as you can see, the adjuster part is on the slab itself. It is an anchoring and adjusting mechanism as one. Another variation for rod suspended ceilings is having your adjuster at the middle. Meaning to say, if you look at the picture, you can see that it is already anchored above in the slab and it is anchored with a suspension clip down below on the frame, while in the middle, that is where you will install your adjuster. Now this picture shows how to install your anchoring on the slab above. You can either use a sleeve anchor or expansion bolt with a closed hook, an expansion bolt with an open hook, and an expansion bolt with an eyelet. How do you do this? You drill a hole on the slab above, you insert that expansion bolt, and you start turning it so that it would expand and hold on to the concrete itself. Another variation of the anchoring is something that looks like this. It is hammered into the slab above. But again, this is how you tie your GI. There is a company called Hilti which uses a powdered actuated system wherein you just use this to hammer that anchoring on the slab above. Again, just like in the wood framing, this is how you install your lights. Meaning to say, if you plan to use a uh, downlight, as shown on the picture in the bottom right, that is how you will install your support to the ceiling finish itself. In the event that you have a double ceiling wherein you would like to install fluorescent tube lamps or LED fluorescent lamps, this is how the drawing should look like. Now, these are several variations of acoustical tile finish, meaning to say you just don't have to come up with that boring looking all white tile finish. You can also come up with several tile finishes that is acoustical in nature. So as you can see, you can now come up with several designs for your ceiling and not just that plain old straight looking forward ceiling. You just have to play around with your framing, then you install your finish. I hope you learned something new out of this. Watch out for my next video wherein I will start to discuss about certain ceiling finishes. Click the subscribe button to discover all the other videos in this site. Click the notification bell to be notified about new videos that we post. If you have additional comments, please post them down below or at our Arkida Facebook page, and I will answer all your queries. Thank you.